Boys and girls, today we're gonna dial in the most disgusting bass tone ever. Highly distorted, of course. Very spicy, just beautifully ugly. Here we go. A lot of you guys have watched my video about the dangle modern metal bass tone, but today I want to go one step further. I want to add a lot more distortion. I actually want to go into high gain guitar land. I want to use a high gain guitar amp to make my bass sound more rotten and more disgusting. And I'm just going to use plugins today. So you can try to do the same thing at home, boys and girls, right? Okay, so what we got here is a song I'm working on at the moment. It's for an upcoming course in my academy. It's a little, whatever, a vibey black metal tune, quite primitive, and it sounds like this. And as you can hear, we have a nice sounding bass that already cuts through the mix. That is my typical dangle tone. Have another listen. And if that's brutal enough for you, disgusting enough for you, you can stop watching now. Go somewhere else. Go. Okay, like I told you, today I want more. So I have added a third track. Right now we were listening to two tracks, like the main dangle track, sounds like this. And we got the bass deep track, which is a highly compressed, filtered, clean DI track. And together, beautiful. By the way, if you want to know more about that dangle track, again, there's a link somewhere, I guess below, to that video. Let's go crazy. So, if you want guitar distortion from a plugin, what you want is preferably a plugin with a lot of different amps and a lot of different cabinets, so you can do some experiments, because you have to find out what sounds cool on its own, but also what sounds cool mixed with your existing bass tracks. What I'm going to use today is Amplitude 5, which I do use quite a lot for bass. Already used Amplitude 3 a lot back in the days on bass guitars. And you want to start with pretty much exactly this. What you want is a high gain amp, but a classic high gain amp. Something that Lemmy would play, you know, preferably a Marshall or a Laney or an Orange amp, something like that. Not a modern high gain amp, not a 5150 or a rectifier, because those very modern amps will sound too distorted and too compressed, and they will just make your bass sound farty and small. But something like this, and this is just the default preset of Amplitude, Marshall 800 usually sounds pretty cool. Let's have a listen. And that sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? Just to show you the opposite, if we use this Mark III from Mesa Boogie, that's not what you want. That sounds fuzzy and it sounds farty in the low end, no matter what you do, even if we roll back the gain. There's just not enough attack in the distortion. There's even a reverb there, terrible. So that is the wrong amp. And most of the modern sounding amps, they just add too much and they will make your bass sound lifeless and fuzzy and farty, just like this. That's not what we want. So I recommend to look for a classic British high gain amp, something like Marshall, like the 800. Let's try a few more. What about this one? It's nice too. A little more dirty, but still kind of precise enough for what we want. Try this one. Not bad. A little fuller in the lower mids. And more compressed, but that's cool too. That's a Silver Jubilee, right? And what was that? Ah, the slash signature. Let's try the 900. Same thing here, you know, too fuzzy, too compressed. We don't want this. Too much low end going into the amp. Ah, too much low end going into the distortion. We don't want this. Okay, let's just go for either the silver. There's just something nasty in the upper mids that I don't like. Or this one. That one has a nice even frequency response. Let me just check out the cabinets. So this is, what is this? Ah, okay, so this is a 1960 BV, and V stands for vintage. So this is a vintage 30, and vintage 30s just sound cool on guitars and bass. Is there some fucking room or something? I don't want a room. Better. And let's switch to the other amp. This one, which cab is that? Ah, okay. Those terrible Celestion G12T75 speakers. I just hate them. They even suck on bass. So let's just unlink this, like, so the cab and amp are not linked anymore, and switch to the V30. Nice. So much better than this. Okay, now to find out which amp actually sounds better, because I like them both, I think I want to compare them in the mix. Let's just start with this one. That's surprising, right? So I told you this one has a little more lower mid, so the Silver Jubilee sounds a lot fuller. So now it depends what you want to do. If you just want to blend the touch of it, maybe this one would be better. Because you don't have to make it loud to, you know, dangle through the mix. But I think I want to go for this one because it sounds like it could even become my main bass track. That sounds great, doesn't it? It's just like Marshall distortion on bass. I mean, Lemmy knew that, right? It's just so sexy. But I think we got to EQ this a little bit. I want to get rid of some of the lower mids there. Wait a minute. And maybe we also should add a low cut here. And I don't know how many of you have watched my video about using linear phase EQs. So in this moment, when we have several bass tracks with the same signal, and we are EQing the low end here, it might be better to use a linear phase EQ, because then we just have the frequency changes and we don't have any phase changes around the EQ points. So let's just switch from 0 latency to, let's solo all 3 bass tracks, and let's switch from 0 latency to linear phase. It's probably that filter around here, around 130, which introduces a phase shift here. So if we are on 0 latency, and that makes your bass sound thinner. So if you have several bass tracks, always check what sounds better. Most of the time, if you're EQing the low end, the linear phase sounds better. So let's mix in this track. It's pretty loud now. You know what? What happens if we turn off our main bass track? We don't need it anymore, right? This one sounds so cool and a lot more aggressive. Let's just switch from this one to what we had in the beginning of the video. So you see, we don't even need our dangle track anymore. We have the amplitude track, and we just add the bass deep here to give it a little more clean low end. And that works really, really well. But again, you got to make sure those 2 tracks are in phase, and you got to make sure your EQ moves don't fuck up the phase relation between them. Wild and dirty, disgusting. So that's it. 2 plugins, Amplitude, just a few tweaks, and an EQ. And then you mix it together with a clean, compressed bass track. And you got a great, really fucked up, disgusting bass tone. And everybody's gonna go, oh, wow, it sounds so dirty. I love it, right? Everybody loves dirty bass tones. And suddenly the bass is the star of this mix. Fantastic, right? So yeah, I want you to try this at home. Go for a high gain classic guitar amp, something British, not too extreme, and try to blend it with either both your, let's call it dangle, modern sounding bass track, and your low end track. Or if it sounds good enough, you might end up with just a low end track and your new highly distorted guitar distortion bass track. All right, that's all I wanted to show you today. Quick and dirty and disgusting, but beautiful. So now it's time to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. If you haven't switched off the video by now, you should do that, right? For more dirty videos coming from the German dude, right? That's all for today. If you want to see more, if you want to get some free stuff and some free IRs and samples and whatever, you subscribe to my email lists below, where you'll also find a link to our Discord server, where we have quite a bunch of nice people talking about making metal sound dirty again. That's all for today. I see you in hell, motherfuckers. I see you, my friends. Bye-bye.